Alton Sterling! Justice for Alton Sterling!
New York, just one of many cities having peaceful protests yesterday in the hours before the tragedy in Dallas. People also marched peacefully in Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and many other places, including Dallas. They gathered in solidarity to protest the killing of black men by police officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and St. Paul, Minnesota. These, of course, were not isolated incidents. A new study shows that African Americans are far more likely than whites to be victims of the use of force by police. The Center for Policing Equality says blacks are more than 3 times as likely than whites or any other groups to have force used against them when dealing with police, even after racial disparities in crime rates are accounted for. And Mayo, we were talking about this on the program last night, asking if the increase or if there was an elevated rate of violence at police stops where blacks, especially black men, are involved, or is it just that there were more interactions with police where black men were involved? And it seems as though the answer is both.
I think that it is both, and the New York Civil Liberties Union was crystal clear in their stop and frisk data that 90% of the people who got stopped during that period of time were found guilty of no crime whatsoever, and most of the others of very minor crimes. And again, it's not necessarily that your individual police officers say, hey, let me go out and do this. They're being told by the people who don't get criticized, you know, your commissioners and your politicians, to go out and do this, and that you're keeping the streets safe when you're really not doing that. And what you're also doing in the process is you are now lessening the fact that, or the possibility of working with people from that community. So for instance, in Dallas, you saw lots of people of all backgrounds, but a lot of young black men even that were protesting, trying to find the person who had done the shooting or who were helpful. I saw someone here. So they weren't anti-police. And in fact, by being there, they were equally at risk, although this guy was targeting law enforcement. I think that you have to stop and look at training. You have to stop and you have to look at what people bring to the table when they come in as candidates. And not everybody's a candidate to be law enforcement. You may be an otherwise wonderful person, but you are not a candidate to hold a gun. It doesn't matter what color you are. You just may not be that person.
Richard, everybody holds biases, whether they know it or not. Is it your sense that police officers view blacks and black men as being more violent and bigger risks than they do other people?
I can't speak for every police officer.
Well,
but
I'm
sure.
curious your take.
So look, as a civil rights attorney, in which I've been involved in New York City and Westchester County, as is Mayo, suing police departments and policing the police for when they are charged with excessive force cases and false arrests, there does certainly seem to be an instance where the complaints take place in an urban area, such as New York City or Yonkers, and dealing with people of color. I got to tell you, 90% of the people that I've dealt with, I can only talk about my experience, for civil rights cases against police officers for excessive force have been either Latino or African American. And I've had one case where it was a white woman who had charged excessive force, but most of the cases were African Americans and Latinos, if that helps answer your question.
It does. Dominic, I'm curious, I'll ask you the same question. Do you feel like police officers tend to view black suspects as being more violent and are more cautious than others?
You know I'm a straight shooter.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we're dancing around this question. You know what the answer is. Of course they do. And in some cases justified. And that's when we've got to get real about the problems in our community, about the graduation rates, the education, the babies having babies. But at the same time, it does not give the police the right to just roll up and disrespect us anytime they want to. Just for the point of this conversation, lawyer, journalists. When we walk out of here, we're just 3 brothers. And they don't care, period. Look at, I will say again, look at how that black woman was treated in Minnesota. She had just watched her boyfriend killed with her baby sitting in the back. She was told by the backup team, not even, first of all, the cop that did the shooting pointed his gun at her. She was told by the backup officers, not him, she was told, the woman we're looking at right now, to get out of the car, turn around, walk backwards, get down on your knees, handcuffed, and taken to the police station. Does anybody at this table think that would have happened to a white woman? We all know what the answer is. You asked the question, so I'm being real.
Well, you also have to wonder whether if you had a 12-year-old white boy playing with a gun in a park, whether the police are going to get there and that kid's going to be dead within 2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3
seconds. Excuse me, seconds. So there are a number of incidents that suggest that the police may be a bit predisposed. However, I have to say, in my cases, I also represent a number of white men and women, sometimes white teenage girls even, who have had instances where they were mistreated by police. That's not covered on the news. And I think that to some degree it's a disservice because we don't cover the cases where the police are abusing white people. It happens there as well.
Is it in urban areas or
in
suburban?
urban areas as well as in all over the country. There was a case in New Hampshire where it's on videotape in police headquarters where the white young man's in handcuffs, head slammed into the cinder blocks, a man in a wheelchair turned over and injured.
I want to bring this all the way around to Mike. Mike, you spent 20 plus years in the NYPD. You were a white officer and worked in predominantly black neighborhoods in New York. Do you think that police officers tend to view black suspects, particularly black men, as being bigger threats and are treated differently?
I don't think that they start out their shift or their tour with that opinion. I mean, believe it or not, that's my truthful, honest opinion. Things do happen during the course of your shift and during the course of your career that may lead certain people to develop biases against something based on something that happened to them once with someone else, and maybe that just, but for the most part, most of the officers that I work with, black, Asian, Hispanic, white, they go out and they want to do the job. And there are situations that they get into that other people would perceive that they have a bias or they're racist towards someone. That's my opinion.
Well, how do you answer when you hear questions about would a white 12-year-old have been treated the same way that Tamir Rice was in Cleveland, or whether, you know, in the cases in Minnesota or Louisiana, if it was a white suspect? That
I think my opinion on it is that, you know, when you look at policing in general, you have inner city policing, you have suburban policing, and you have rural policing. You know, and in the inner cities, after you're there, I think you start to develop a certain demeanor, and after going on a certain amount of radio runs and you're seeing people shot, and you're hearing descriptions put over the radio, you know, we have a male black just shot a male black, we have 2 male blacks just committed a robbery. I think after that's, as a police officer and as you develop, that could seep into some people that immediately their first reaction is that person is, you know, but I think that's just policing in the city. You know, I mean, I would like to put to rest this idea that there's this conspiracy with white police officers that turn out their shift every day just to kill unarmed black men, and that's what they're there for. And if you listen to the rhetoric on TV, that's what you'll hear.
Well, I don't.
You know, I think most reasonable people don't. Right. But I think
I've interaction with police.
You'll also hear that black people are super predators.
Right.
You know, and that you have to be fearful of black people, and that in the black community, most people are dangerous. When you policed in New York City, I mean, what do you have? 12 million people probably there in the middle of the day. And if 1% of those people were dangerous people, the NYPD couldn't police New York City.
Richard, I'll give
so
you
you're
the
dealing
final,
with a very small percentage of people.
I'll give you the final thought.
So let me capitalize on this real quick. In terms of when I taught Intro to the American Legal System, Intro to the American Justice System, American court system, whatever it was, you know, one of the things you learn is, in teaching that course, a lot of people who wanted to become police officers took that course. And one of the things the course taught you says your average perp suspect will be a male in an urban area, black, unemployed, and with less than high school education. And that's what you're learning to become a police officer. Now, whether or not that affects you on the job, I think once you get on the job, you start to, the realization, say, hey, maybe this person's a little dangerous. Now, I'm going to flip that into what happened in New York, here in New York City, in Brooklyn, where there was an allegation that there was a gentleman who had road rage and was punching the heck out of a cop. The New York Post just came out today with the surveillance video of that. The gentleman who was alleged to have punched the crap out of the cop was at the cop's window for less than 2 seconds before he was shot. Now, how much punching you can do in less than 2 seconds, I don't know. But maybe the fear of this black man coming up to the officer's vehicle had something to do with it. That is a case to watch. certainly I think that there may be potential charges in that case.
All right, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump take a day off from campaigning in the wake of the Dallas tragedy, and Trump offers a surprising response to the murders.